From a massive silhouette pushing through deep snow in the Swiss Alps, to a nighttime trail cam that caught something with glowing eyes towering over a paralyzed moose, to a thermal camera revealing a creature that stood up from the tall grass and stared right back at the lens. These are some of the most unsettling pieces of footage I've ever come across. There is a specific kind of silence that only exists high up in the mountains. Heavy snow absorbs every sound, and you feel completely, profoundly alone, until you realize you aren't. This footage supposedly comes from the Swiss Alps, a desolate stretch of deep powder and freezing pines. And right in the middle of it, something is walking. Not a bear, not a lost hiker. The mass of this silhouette is staggering. It pushes through deep, fresh snow like it's walking on dry pavement. The stride is unhurried, heavy, and undeniably bipedal.
Oh my God, that's real. I'm seeing it. I can't believe this. It's actually walking right there. It's huge.
You can hear the person filming, their breath hitching, whispering, "That's real. It's a real Yeti." And in that raw, panicked whisper, you hear a human brain desperately trying to reject what its eyes are seeing. Maybe it is an elaborate, freezing cold prank pulled for internet clout. But I've always been fascinated by the fact that these mountains have kept their secrets for centuries. The Yeti, the Almasty, the wild men of the ice, ancient cultures didn't record these figures as fiction. They recorded them as warnings. And a video like this reminds you of a cold truth. Out there, in the deep white, we are just visitors. There's a hypnotic rhythm to driving down a backwoods dirt road. The trees blur past, the mist hangs low, and your brain goes on autopilot.
Whoa.
This footage captures the exact moment that autopilot violently snaps off. The camera is scanning the tree line when the landscape breaks. Framed between the pines is a massive, bipedal figure covered in dark, matted hair, walking upright with a heavy, deliberate swing of its arms. It doesn't scurry away. It doesn't even seem to care about the car. Notice the reaction from inside the vehicle. No screaming, no cinematic gasps. Just a quiet, stunned, "Whoa," as the car slows. That's the sound of reality short-circuiting in real time. Your mind scrambles to classify it. Bear on its hind legs, hiker in a bulky coat, but the posture is too straight, the shoulders too broad, and the stride is just wrong. Think about how fast we drive past these ancient stretches of forest every day, assuming they're empty. How many times have you looked out a window into the woods, completely unaware of what was looking back? There's a rule you learn quickly when you spend time deep in the woods. If you hear something big, you stop moving, you make yourself small, and you pray it doesn't notice you. This footage puts you in that exact scenario. The woods are bare, stripped of summer cover. The person filming is hiding behind the thickest tree they can find, barely daring to breathe. Because walking through the dead leaves a few yards away is a silhouette that doesn't belong there. A towering, dark mass on two legs hunched forward, with arms that hang just a little too low to be human. You can hear the heavy crunch of footsteps cutting through the silence. This thing moves with the slow, unbothered rhythm of something that has no natural predators. The scariest part isn't the figure itself, it's the unbearable tension of the person filming, completely trapped, relying on a single tree to stay hidden. I think about this one a lot, honestly, because I've been in that position in the woods before, where you're suddenly very aware of how exposed you are. What would have happened if the wind shifted and that thing turned around and looked right at the camera? There's a reason we're hardwired to fear the dark. This footage is shot in full night vision green. Two friends, a tent, and the kind of suffocating silence that settles over a forest when something large is nearby. The guy on camera is already on edge, staring into the pitch black trees, whispering, "That wasn't an animal." He's completely unaware he's looking in the wrong direction.
This wasn't an animal.
Then it breaks. The creature materializes from the shadows right behind him, a massive, dark shape that lunges past with explosive speed, letting out a guttural snarl that shatters everything. Pure chaos. The frantic blur of a camera, the sound of crashing through brush, and the spike of genuine panic. Forums will call it a student film or a guy in a suit with audio layered in post. And honestly, part of me wants that to be true. Because if it's real, you have to accept something worse. That you can be standing in the woods scanning the tree line while the thing you're looking for is already right behind you. This one is shot in bright, dappled sunlight, which somehow makes it worse. The person filming is behind a thick tree trunk watching something resting in the brush. A massive, reddish-brown, hair-covered figure leaning against a log with the relaxed posture of a primate, just sitting there, soaking in the sun. Then the creature notices. It doesn't sniff the air or bolt. It turns its head with this stiff, terrifyingly human-like awareness and looks directly into the lens. The width of its face, the way it processes the person hiding there, it's entirely too calculated. What follows is pure instinct, violent shaking of the camera, a panicked scramble as stealth is abandoned for survival. I don't care how tough you think you are. If a creature out of folklore locks eyes with you in the middle of the woods, you don't look for a zipper, you run. This clip drops you into the worst kind of dread, the anticipation kind. Two guys are standing above a dense, overgrown ravine. They've already seen something that shattered their sense of safety, and now they're just waiting, whispering in panicked tones, scanning a wall of green. Where did it go?
Where'd it go? It's behind those bushes, man. Look.
Then, way down the hillside, a massive, pitch-black silhouette stands up. Your brain scrambles. Black bear. Has to be. But it doesn't drop to all fours, it stays upright, navigating the steep grade with a smooth bipedal stride. It moves like a man on a confident hike, except no human is built with that kind of hulking mass. You hear the exact moment the guys realize they're out of their depth. We gotta get out of here. The most terrifying part? That thing doesn't even bother to look up at them. And that detail is what really sticks with me. When something that big doesn't consider you a threat, you don't stick around to find out why. This comes from Fort Wilkins, Michigan, a snow-covered ridge in a frozen, silent forest. The silence is broken by a low, hollow howl, too big for a wolf, too guttural for a human. As the camera pans, a massive bipedal figure stands just beyond the crest of the hill. It takes slow, deliberate steps through the deep snow, completely unfazed. It has the thick build of an ape, but carries itself with a bipedal confidence that doesn't belong to any known animal out here. It's just walking the ridge, sovereign. When you hear a sound like that echoing through the trees, your brain doesn't debate camera angles. It registers one fact. You are not the top of the food chain today. We like to think we've explored every corner of the map. But a video like this reminds you that the map is just a suggestion. We set up trail cameras to see what the woods look like when we aren't around. But sometimes ignorance is bliss. This is classic monochrome night vision, an unremarkable patch of trees in the dead of night. At first, it's just empty woods. Then your eyes adjust and you see it, a towering, impossibly dark silhouette tucked behind thin trunks. Broad shoulders, bipedal frame, blending so perfectly into the backdrop you might scroll right past it. What gets under my skin isn't just the size, it's the absolute stillness. It isn't foraging, it isn't passing through. It is standing there, camouflaged in the dark, watching. The easy answer is pareidolia, shadows, compressed into a monster shape by a low-light sensor. And for my own peace of mind, I hope that's all this is. But I've stared at this frame longer than I probably should have, and I keep coming back to the same thought. How many times have you walked through the dark, completely oblivious to what was standing just a few feet away? This footage is shot from what looks like a town, looking up at a distant, sunlit ridge. Right on the crest, silhouetted against the daylight, something is crawling. Your brain tries to make it human, a hiker scrambling over rock. But the proportions are wrong, the limbs are impossibly long, jutting at sharp, unnatural angles. It moves on all fours, but not like a mammal, like an insect. A sprawling, jointed crawl pulling itself along the skyline. The bug on the glass theory is the only one that lets you sleep at night. But I'll admit, I went down a rabbit hole on this one. In the darker corners of cryptozoology, there's an entire subculture dedicated to sightings of crawlers, gangly, humanoid things that get the joint structure terrifyingly wrong. We always assume that if we ever see a monster, it'll leap out of the shadows right in front of us. We never prepare for the possibility of seeing 1 mile away, casually dragging itself across the horizon in broad daylight. And if something that size is comfortable moving in the open, it raises one deeply uncomfortable question. What on earth is it hunting? Shot in a dense green forest where the foliage is so thick it plays tricks on your eyes. At first, you're looking at a wall of green. Then the camera catches a shape moving through the trees, tall, dark, slipping behind the trunks with unsettling grace. It isn't thrashing through the brush like a startled animal. It moves deliberately, weaving through the thickest parts of the forest as if it knows exactly how to avoid being seen. The bipedal stride is undeniable, but it doesn't walk like a human. There's a heavy, rolling gait, the shoulders shifting with raw power. I've walked through forests like this. You know how impossible it is to move quietly through dense undergrowth without snapping something. The fact that something this massive can glide through the brush in near silence doesn't just unsettle me. It makes me wonder how many times I've been out in the woods, completely convinced I was alone when I absolutely wasn't. This footage comes from the freezing, snow-dusted woods of Alberta, Canada. A section of forest is roped off with bright pink caution tape. But what's moving behind the wreckage is a hulking, pitch-black mass, entirely out of place against the white snow. The proportions are wrong for a bear, shoulders too broad, limbs shifting with bipedal mechanics. It moves with a deliberate, almost intelligent curiosity. Alberta's wilderness is vast, unforgiving, and steeped in centuries of indigenous folklore about massive, hairy wild men in the deep timber. The kind of legends that don't just disappear because we paved a few roads. And I'll be honest, this is one of those clips where the setting alone would be enough to unsettle me, even without the figure. Look at that thin strip of pink plastic and tell me it means anything out there. Human boundaries mean nothing to the things that actually own the woods. Yellowstone in winter is a deeply alien landscape, boiling geysers and freezing temperatures, where nature is raw and entirely indifferent. This footage pans across a snow-covered field where bison are standing in the cold, steam from thermal features rolling through the pines. But right in the middle of it all, partially obscured by trees, is a towering, dark figure walking entirely upright. It's unhurried, deliberate. The bison aren't panicked, but they're giving it a wide berth. The immediate debunk is a person on snowshoes. But rangers don't patrol these remote areas alone and on foot, and they don't have that build or that rolling shoulder movement. Yellowstone is over 2 million acres of largely untouched wilderness. And this is a point I keep coming back to whenever someone says, "We would have found one by now." No, we wouldn't have. Not in terrain like this. When you watch this figure disappear into the freezing mist, you have to wonder, out there, in that kind of cold, you don't survive by accident. You survive because you belong there. Every tracker knows the rule. Watch the animals. They'll tell you when the woods aren't safe long before your own senses pick it up. Trail cam footage. Dead of night, a young moose standing in the center of the frame, not grazing but rigid, tense. Then you look behind it, into the pitch black tree line. 2 glowing, widely spaced eyes reflecting the infrared. Your brain tries owl, raccoon, reflective tape. But those eyes are positioned so high off the ground that whatever they belong to is looking down on an animal that already stands incredibly tall. That doesn't explain the moose's posture. It isn't reacting to a piece of tape. It's paralyzed by the presence of a predator. In the cryptozoology world, eye shine at that height is the hallmark of a Sasquatch. And I'll say this, I've seen a lot of trail cam footage. This is one of the few that actually made my skin crawl. We put up trail cameras to feel like we have a window into the wild. But the window works both ways, and whatever is out there isn't afraid of the dark. This video feels old, vintage, shaky cam quality, the kind that defined classic Bigfoot documentaries. It's shot low, looking down a narrow trail framed by towering pines. The person filming whispers, "Oh, there he goes." A massive bipedal figure emerges from the left and walks across the path. Broad shoulders, heavy legs, a stride that is entirely unbothered. It casually crosses the opening and vanishes into the brush. Then the camera jolts, the person realizing they've stayed too long. I've watched this one more times than I should admit. It's one of those clips that genuinely changed the way I think about this subject. What gets me is the weight. It's not a person struggling in a costume. It's something carrying its mass with effortless, natural grace. It's not performing. It's just walking through its home. And if you've ever been on a forest trail and felt that sudden chill, the conviction that you're intruding on territory that isn't yours, a video like this tells you that sometimes you're right. There is a difference between seeing a creature and realizing a creature is seeing you. This is thermal camera footage, equipment that strips away darkness and reduces the world to a heat map. The crosshairs drift over a field of tall grass. Then there's the sharp clatter of something metal. The camera snaps back up. And from the white, hot grass, a figure stands, slowly, deliberately, massive, broad-shouldered, glowing against the cooler background. For a second, two eyes stare directly back at the lens. This isn't a startled animal. It's something that just realized it's being watched, and instead of running, decided to let you know it sees you too. That moment genuinely unsettles me every time I rewatch it. Thermal imaging doesn't lie about heat. Whatever is standing in that field is a living, breathing, massive creature that was perfectly content to stay hidden. You like to think the night vision makes you the hunter, but sometimes all you're doing is shining a light on something that was already there. This one has a strange energy. It's shot from a tour train, comfortable, safe, people chatting and pointing out the window. A normal vacation scene. But what they're pointing at is anything but normal. The camera is zoomed in on a steep, rocky hillside. Open terrain, no forest to hide in. A large, dark figure is moving across the slope. A woman says, "It just squatted down."
Alright, just squatted down.
It's not on all fours like a bear. It's not upright like a hiker. It's doing this strange, fluid, bipedal scramble, squatting low, then rising, navigating the steep incline with casual, jarring power. I find this one fascinating because of the context. The people on the train laugh it off. A fun mystery to break up the ride. But if you were out on that hillside alone and you saw that shape squatting in the brush watching you, you wouldn't be laughing. You'd be looking for a way out. Because the things that thrive in places like this are not to be underestimated. For more interesting footage, check this out.